Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 of Press Play and Run with me, your host Ryan Miller. We're following hot on the heels of our Loch Ness 24 special with Rachel McPherson, and despite her best efforts to get us cancelled, or maybe more pertinently because of my editing, we managed to make it through almost unscathed with some of Rachel's horrific chat, banter and stories from Loch Ness. We are back to normal proceedings today, and we are rattling actually towards the end of Season 2. This is Episode 7 as I said, and we are going to go for 10 episodes before a well-earned break. It's only been a few days since I did one of these updates, so there's not so much to fill you in on this week. Congratulations to David Wright on the success of the Run Right 5km running festival. At the weekend it looked like a brilliant day. I was sorry that I missed out in the end. I'd signed up, but my legs just weren't recovered enough to go there and to take on the Edinburgh runner, Jace Wood. I had him in my DMs crying, asking me, please don't go into this. I can't afford to get beat again. I don't know if my self-esteem could take it. So I decided to do the honourable thing and back out and let him be the best baldy guy there for a wee change. So that must have been nice for you, Jace. I hope it boosted your self-esteem. I hope it helps you develop just that wee bit more confidence and maybe let you get better at this running stuff. Part of the reason for saving my legs was so that I could throw myself into the Cumbernauld 10k pacing that I'd signed up for. That was one of those things I said yes when Natalie Hunter had asked me to get involved and asked a lot of Newton Road runners to take on pacing duties. Stupidly didn't check the diary, the calendar, didn't realise it was as close to Loch Ness 24 and agreed to pace 45 minutes, which, whilst is doable, is certainly no walk in the park. So we had a cracking day for Cumbernauld. Felt like a pretty quiet event. I don't know if it was because it clashed with the Celtic and Rangers game or just with how much has been in the race calendar at the moment, but it was a really good atmosphere, really well organised. It was a tough day with the weather, a bit of a tale of two halves that course. It was warm enough in its own right and the water stations were sort of 6 and 8k. By the time it got to 6 it felt very necessary, and then the next one came rattling round pretty quickly. And the second half of the course felt like it kicked up a bit. I've not actually checked the elevation profile, but it was tough, and a lot of that group that were sort of hanging on started to tail off a wee bit as we got nearer the finish line. But the Newton Road runners out there running the race, pacing the race, smashed their day. Loads of happy people at the end. Some of the kid races were brilliant. They're running the sort of 400 metres and I think maybe up to like a kilometre or two, and they pace everything like their pants are on fire. And it's always good to see the kids blown up after 60 metres or so of actual tears and snotters. Some of the adults as well, actually. That was the last thing I actually had signed up for in terms of the race calendar, but it's been playing in the back of my mind since Loch Ness about getting back on the horse with the ultra idea and getting over some of that disappointment from withdrawing from the Devil of the Highlands. So I've made the decision to sign up for, and I shared this already on Insta, I made the decision to sign up for the Davaway 50km race on the 11th of November. Not a ton of people I know doing that. Leanne, one of my former guests, one of the Brooks Run Happy team, is doing that. There's another few people that I've now seen since that I follow on Insta doing it. So it'll be a small group there, which is kind of what I was looking for. I just really want to get my head down for this one. Happy to share the journey, the training, but I sort of steered away from Glen Ogle where so many people I know are doing it, and I'm going to go to that event and support. But I wanted to really just get myself out there and really home in that day on the running as opposed to the bigger community side of things. So wee bit selfish decision there, but I'm looking forward to sharing that. The terrain looks like I can handle it relative to what we did at Loch Ness. The course looks tasty enough in that a lot of it's downhill after an initial uphill. I think it might have a bit of, they called it a spicy ending at the end, so I'm putting that down to brutal torture. That's like parkrun people that say it's undulating, which they mean hilly. But I'm really looking forward actually to getting into a part of the world I've never run in, exploring somewhere new and seeing what I can do over 50k. I have no pace goals, I have no time goals. I'm going to make sure I put the work in, get the most out of it that I can, and following that it will definitely be a bit of a rest period heading into December before I really turn my attention to that marathon plan starting in January. The only other thing in my radar at the moment is our club race, the Newton Road Runners 10k, and there's a 3k option there as well for juniors. That's also on the 11th of November. That's a really important race in the Newton Road Runners calendar. It's run in the memory of a former member of the club. It's a cause really dear to everybody's heart. Looking for the absolute best turnout, and I really would love it if the Press Play and Run community could rally around that event. Even though I'm not going to be there in the day, there's going to be plenty of familiar faces from our community, people that I've met at Park Run, at the meetups. I would love as many of you to get there as possible and run in that event. It's really well priced. I will share the link. And actually, if you look out for next week, I'm going to be doing a giveaway. We're going to give away a pair of entries to one person so that they can sign themselves and potentially a friend up to the event. Because when we're giving away single entries in the past, there is that bit of barrier of, oh, it means I have to go myself. So we're going to give away a pair of entries. That draw will be next week, so look out for it. Even if you don't win a place, I would love it if you could get along there, support a great club, support great people, and actually go out there and do a really fun race. It's on the Clyde Path, it's traffic free, it's undulating. It's definitely not hilly. There's a couple of wee tasty ones on the way back. It was a brilliant day last year. It was actually one of the races that really kick-started my own running after a bit of a period in the wilderness, and it was the one that actually cemented my decision to join Newton Roadrunners. So that happened for me not long after this event last year. It's not even been a full year. It feels like I've been there forever. I'm actually hoping to get Joanne Thorburn, who is the club president, onto the next episode as my guest. We've been trying to make it happen. I had to reschedule one, but I'm hoping to get there. Joanne's got a cracking running story in her own right, and I want her to speak a wee bit about the race, about her place in that community, about her place in the club. So hopefully we can get that organised, and Joanne will be my next guest and you'll hear more about that race. London Marathon fundraising is ticking on in the background. The work is ongoing for the run retreat that I'm putting on. That's sold out. But we've got lots of great organisations partnering with us, and I've got a raffle that I was hoping that I would have had up and running by now, but it's just been one thing after the other and I've not quite gotten to it. So again, next week I'm going to try and crack that and get it out there, get it onto Insta, get it into the Facebook space, and let people see what the prizes are, let you know how you go about buying a ticket, and support the charity Place to Be that I'm running for in London. I've had some unbelievable brand support already confirmed, and there are more things in the works, but I want to take the time actually just to say a thank you to some of the brands that have either confirmed support or have already actually sent some amazing products. So Kylo and the Wild have sent us a couple of pairs of their beautiful sunglasses to give away. Big Bobble Hat have committed to giving us a few hats to give away. I've got Twisted Running, Loop posters, I've got Dry Robe and some products from Dry Robe. I've had support, as I always get, from Coupa Digital Coaching App, Astrea CrossFit and Align Pilates Group, who are actually represented through the ambassadorship and Lululemon. They've been really generous, giving us great packages to give away. On the day itself of the retreat, I've got Elite Cereal, and they're also giving some raffle prizes. Of course, I've got Lululemon support. I've got Dippendales involved. We've got the Happy Diet. Kaylee, congratulations on launching the cookbook and your merchandise along with the website. We've got event giveaways as well, so race entries for Blast Running and Up and Coming Running. We've got a brilliant coaching package with Run Lift Perform through Sophia Thane. We've got Erdinger Alcohol Free helping to sponsor some of the event as well. Healthy Body, Healthy Mind. The list goes on. There's some cracking prizes in there, and I'm going to make sure that it's the best possible value. So I'm thinking something along the lines of £5 a raffle ticket, and all of the prizes far exceed that value to make sure people are getting their value for money, and it makes a significant dent to get me towards that target that I have for Place to Be. It's an amazing charity. I'm kind of over myself now in terms of sharing the link. It's out there. We're going to try and meet the target, and then I can get my head down and concentrate on the running. Final thing I want to flag up is that I was a guest on another podcast this week. So thank you to Alex from the Girls Run Club, and congratulations on your first episode. So Alex had reached out for a wee bit of support in launching the podcast, just getting to grips with some of the technical aspects, and then asked me to be a guest on the Girls Run Club, because who better to be on the Girls Run Club than this guy? So we did that recording. That launched on Wednesday. The reaction to it's been really good. Really good conversation. I'd been back and forward with Alex a few times about technical aspects, so there was already a good rapport established there, and we had quite a relaxed conversation about running, and it was a bit of a different lilt than the previous podcast that I'd done, which was much more about the history of my running and the preparation for the Edinburgh Marathon at that time. In this week's episode, I'm joined by Dan Kristof, who is running the Great North Run. Dan has a sizable and growing profile on Instagram. He's well embedded in the run scene in Manchester and actually has since moved to Wales. He's going to be taking part in the Great North Run this weekend, which I know a lot of our Press Play and Run listeners and community are also involved in. So hopefully this is going to help build some of that excitement. You're going to hear some incredible stuff about the opportunities Dan's had that's come through his Instagram profile, his blogging, the recognition he's received for it and some of the famous faces that he's met and been mentored by in his running as a result of all that work that he's done. So I really hope you enjoy the conversation. Again, as always, I can't ask enough that you just keep up that momentum of responding to the guests, sharing the love, sharing the podcast, sharing the episode, and rating and reviewing. There is nothing that helps get us out there more, and it makes it all worthwhile. I hope you're looking forward to whatever's coming up next, and I hope that this episode keeps you company as you get out there, get the trainers on, press play, and run. In this episode, I'm joined by a man that's 7 years into his running journey. From running to lose weight and raising large sums of money for charity, to rubbing shoulders and being mentored by the elites, his running has taken him to places he could never imagine. His skill for sharing that story has seen him nominated as Blogger of the Year and Socials Champion of the Year at this year's Mental Health Blog Awards. And I'm delighted to welcome to Press Play and Run, Dan Kristof. How are you, Dan?
Yeah, good, Ryan. Good. Nice to be on here, and again, just chat about all things running. I don't often get an opportunity like this, so it's good to connect in a different way. Yeah.
The opportunity to talk to an audience about running that actually cares. It's a rare thing for all runners, so let's take it, run with it. Pun unintended that time. That's quite odd for me to hear that you don't often get the chance to speak about it, because you've got a relatively sizable online profile, and obviously you share your journey, but a lot of that can be a very one-sided conversation, can't it? So we're going to dig in a wee bit and maybe have a bit more back and forth. So, but before we get into the sort of where you're at now, I want to kick off. Now, I've credited you there with a 7-year running journey. That's for you to correct if I'm wrong, but just take me back to the start of that, Dan. Where did this sort of running story kick off? And I suppose what was your why at the beginning?
Yeah, of course. So 7 year, I use the term very lightly. I did my first run 7 years ago. So I did my first race. I did no training. I signed up. It was in memory of my grandma that passed away. So I just signed up and I thought, I'm just going to do something a bit different and see what the crack is really. And the running journey sort of like ended straight after that. I got signed up and then I was like, wow, what do I do now? And then it just ended. So then fast forward to sort of 2020, 2019, the end of, I was feeling really low, feeling really down in myself, really, not motivated whatsoever. Something just clicked in me. I just thought, I'm overweight. I was 15 stone at this time. I was eating the wrong stuff. I was spending too much time on social media. I just thought I need to get outside. I need to do something. So I came up with a plan of, I saw what happened in when I was running during that little run a couple of years before, and I was like, look, I need something to keep me going. So I set myself a challenge of running 5K every day for a year, because in my mind I had a reason to go out every day. I was doing it for two charities, so I was able to put that aim into why I was doing it. And in the process, I was able to get outside. I was able to connect with people, and it was the start of my own. Why was I doing it? And I ask myself every day, why do I do it? And it just stems down to connection, connecting with people, being able to do something that I love doing. I found a love for running now because of the fact that I'm able to meet new people. I'm able to go to new places. I'm able to just find out a little bit more about myself.
Can I just jump in for a second then? Because there's big jumps. You join an illustrious list of guests that half-arsed their first ever run. No training, just straight in there, in for a race. That tends to be how most of our guests started. So proud of you for that. Welcome to the club. But following that and that gap, and you speak about the headspace you're in, it's quite hard to transport yourself back to that place, I think, when you're this far removed. What at that time, I suppose, takes you from not running to setting such a bold challenge of run every day 5K? And I suppose the second part of that would be, why are you confident at that point that that's even doable?
I wasn't. It was a last resort. So in all honesty, that time I was depressed. I wasn't speaking with people. I pretty much tracked myself away from all of my worries and thoughts. And in that instant, you either do that or you think, what now? And I was motivated by people around me that was doing amazing things. One of the fellas that I'm really good friends with, Steve Hill. He's based in Manchester, and he runs his own charity. And he goes off the sort of premise of I can and I will. And nothing can stop me. And that is like, at that point, I was like, I just need to do something.
Yeah.
So I just thought, if I have an end goal, just like a race, if you're going to race a 10K, you've got the end in mind. You just got to get there. And I just thought, look, this is it. So I set myself a goal of 365 days. This was prior COVID. So then
Yeah.
COVID hit, and I had this challenge then to sort of fall back on. I had a reason to go outside
Yeah.
during this difficult time. So yeah, I didn't know if I could do it, and that was all. That was it, really.
Is there something serendipitous in that you had already set off in this before COVID? Where, I mean, I can only imagine what going into COVID in that headspace could have been had you not already had something
Yeah.
positive to focus on if you were there already. So do you find, I suppose, where do you stand in that in your head on, is that just dumb luck that comes, or do you think there's something greater at work there for you?
Yeah, I definitely believe in fate, and things will come,
Yeah.
and when they need to. And at that point, I was at the lowest of my low, and this was prior to COVID. So without this opportunity to push myself and to raise money for charity, which really did push me, I am grateful for what it did. And during COVID, I grew, and I was a better person by the
Yeah.
end of it. And at that point, you come out the end, and I ran with my first person, like with the first person about a year after. So like 2021 was the first time I'd ever ran with somebody else.
Okay, right.
And that was crazy. That I remember feeling really taken back. I was like, wow, this community I built online is actually like, it's real. Like these
Yeah.
people are there.
We will flip flop a bit through this because my mind is just scatty. It's how it works. But where were you
Yeah.
with your social media at that point in terms of this account? So your account is underscore the running mank, and I mean it's followed 6,500 odd followers there. It's high quality content as well. You can see that you've probably grown the knack for it. It looks like you have the knack for it. I'm sure you've learned lots along the way.
Yeah.
At the beginning of your running journey, had you already made the decision to share this, or did it come later?
No, so my first post on this account is my training run. So the first training run I did in the lead up to that event, now in the campaign sort of thing. And I only did 2 training runs before I started. So like it was, the first was like, look, I'm going to be running 5K every day for a year. The second one was like, tomorrow I start running 5K every day for a year. And then the third one was like, shit, I'm running 5K every day for a year.
Yeah.
So like it was nice to build up a community sort of like organically. I never went into it going, I want to build a community. I went
No.
into it thinking, this is my accountability. If I put it out there to the universe, I've got to do it. And again, it's just making myself accountable for doing so.
Right. So that was the motivation behind the
Yeah.
social media, was more accountability than, I don't think many people start off ever knowing what it's going to become. So that was the exact same as my reason. Actually,
Yeah.
so many people I speak to, that was their reason. It's like, A, don't bore other people that don't like running about running, but also see when you say it out loud, it kind of makes you do it. It's taking on that scary goal. But you started to garner some interest in what you were doing fairly quickly. I had to look through all your content, and I see there's some local news coverage, and you speak about the charity aspect. How were you linked with them before you started, or did that come after too?
Really, I was raising money for the charity. Now, yeah, it did spark a lot of interest within the local community, because, like, Manchester is pretty much probably where you're from as well. Like, it's a very small place. It's a city, but if someone's doing something crazy, everyone knows about it.
Yeah.
And somebody running up and down the street during COVID, at one point up and down my driveway while I was self-isolating. I was doing that for 14 days straight. Did a 10K in my garden, and I took up all the turf. So it just started to snowball a little bit. It was really cool to see, and the charities were reaching out. They were actively involved in the campaign, because they were just really happy that I was able to support them
Yeah.
during this difficult time. So
Yeah, so many people were looking for good news at that time
yeah,
too, weren't they? I mean, this is what
exactly.
the press were defaulting, local press were defaulting to finding good news stories, which is
Yeah.
not always the case.
No, and you see it yourself. You can look on social media, and it's forever. You're scaremongering, or you've got all these stories left, right, and center. And at that point, it was just a bit of something nice to look at. And I think that was what really grew from that. Really, BBC got involved with it. There was a news presenter who sadly has passed away since then, but he got actively involved in the campaign. He went out for his first 5K run on my 50th day. And it was sort of part of like a virtual thing. And you know, just seeing these people that have never ran before, picking up a pair of trainers and just going outside and running. And that really, it made me feel alive, you know, knowing that what I'm feeling can be passed on to other people. And it doesn't take much, you know, it's just that switch, isn't it?
I mean, you're picking up waifs and strays like a virtual Forrest Gump there, people actually out running with you and with you virtually. But what's that doing then at that point for the mental side of where you'd been and where you found yourself?
I was quite far removed from it at first. I didn't want to be associated. So again, at this point, it was sort of like an alter ego, you know, like I had my personal life and then I had my running life, and it never sort of clashed. When it started to pick up a little bit, I was finding my running was getting better. I was meeting people that had the same interest. It did start, I started to think, you know, is this me? You know, is this what I'm capable of? And I started, imposter syndrome is always, I'm very introverted, and I 100%, you know, doing things like this is the reason why I don't do things like this every day, because I build up and I like to pick, you know, what I want to do.
And that's really interesting, Dan. I want to home in on that, because I would call myself introvert extrovert type. There's a
100%.
Who I am in the everyday is very different than I might present on here, or when I go and do something with the run community or through my ambassadorship. That's sometimes I can feel like I'm outside my body looking at it. But I want to home in on something you said there about two separate lives, the you and the, because my online account was anonymous at the beginning. I didn't even have my face on it for over 2 years or whatever when I was running. It was just, somebody reminded me of it yesterday or 2 days ago. She said when I first followed her and was in touch, and she's a local runner who's now a friend, she said, I wondered if you were some kind of weird guy, because it was like just pictures of feet and maps, and that was to do with my job at the time, but also a safety. I still get that self-consciousness of, oh my goodness, somebody I actually know in real life has just followed my account. Do you find that?
100%.
It's so weird, isn't it?
Yeah, and I still don't get to grasp with it. Like I still see it as like, you know, this is a different side of me. You know, I don't like to. Yeah, I'm an extrovert, introverted extrovert. I hate any sort of public speaking and sort of doing things like that. But at the same time, I get such a buzz from doing it. Like the fire has been ignited, and I just feel like through everything, I'm just loving, you know, meeting people.
It's such an interesting paradox to hear somebody else trying to verbalize it, because I do it in my head a lot, where I think, am I that person? And I think I'm coming to the point of, it probably is me and I am comfortable. I just don't know if I'm willing to accept that within yourself, or I'm a very different person now than I would have been 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and more confident than I probably think in those situations. But there's always that self-doubt, that element of, who cares about what I'm saying? To hear you wrestling with the same thing, it's actually quite comforting for me as well. But I suppose I would say the reverse to you is, well, you are that person. You know, whether you're there ready to accept that, you are that person who is confident, has a community, and look how willingly and skillfully you tell your story online.
And that's bizarre. That is what you say now. I find that bizarre as well, because, you know, yourself, you've got your podcast, you've got, you know, really good account. I find it really intriguing, because, you know, people are always putting things off in life because they're not ready for it, or, you know, they're not able to do something. Now, who comes up with that? Because that is your own internal dialogue, isn't it? You know, if you want to do something, in my head, the first thing I think about is, oh my gosh, can I do that? Or, you know, what is going to be the end goal? Now, that is yourself, but on any journey, you know, that you have to take that leap. You know, if you want to do something, you do it and just see what the outcome is. And that's really interesting to see what you're saying there, because, you know, no one's ever going to be ready.
And you're looking at me and thinking, well, he can't be like that. And I'm looking at you and thinking, well, he can't be like that. And I've actually, bizarre. So I've spent the last 3 hours before we speak today editing an episode that will go out a couple before you, and it's Johnny Davis, who's TikTok, the biggest runner on TikTok, right? That's what he's branded as, and the guy has like a gazillion followers and things, and I've got a conversation with him that you'll have heard by the time this comes out, where he speaks about his self-doubt. He organises an event and thinks nobody will turn up, and I'm thinking, you're off your head. You have got 65,000 followers on Instagram, you've got over 100,000 in TikTok, and you're sitting having the same self-doubt I'm having, that I'm speaking to you that you're having. And then I speak to my friends that they have about their content. there is something. It's a very natural thing, and I think it's a healthy thing to talk about. That your head will tell you why you can't. You have to
Yeah,
just do it anyway.
yeah. And that's
Yeah,
you have to do it, because how much in life can you put off
yeah,
for thinking you can't do it, or
mm-hmm.
for not being ready? There's no length of preparation you can do for the unexpected, or for
No,
things that will make you grow, because at the end of the day they make you grow for a reason,
yeah.
and good or bad, you learn from everything.
And it's in those uncomfortable spaces that the growth comes, the real
Yeah,
growth comes, because the other way to flip it and frame it, and I've been thinking a lot about it lately, is, well, where would I have been if I didn't do these things? And I know what I've been. I'd be doing a job I didn't want to do. I would be running on my own and getting limited enjoyment from it. Would I stick with it? Would I be consistent?
mm-hmm.
Definitely not. So if you flip it the other way, what you've done, so I hope that you can step outside yourself to see that as well, because it's a big thing that you take this step. If you don't, I was so surprised to hear you say, no, this is not your natural skill set, because I see what you produce online.
That's bizarre, because like, everybody sees that. Everybody just sees that little grid, and I'm actively posting, and I post quite a lot, and I'm on videos, I'm doing voiceovers and whatnot. But to me, I love the process behind that. I love creating. I'm a very creative person,
Yeah.
so I need an output for that. Back in school, I'd be good at art rather than the actual mathematics or
Yeah.
English. I'm very creative, so
Mm-hmm.
having this output, as well as marrying it with something that I love doing, a hobby,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I do it. And if 10 people watch something, I wouldn't be bothered, because at the end of the day, I'm enjoying the process of making it.
Yeah.
Putting it out there, it's no longer yours. So as soon as I press post, it's not yours anymore.
Yeah.
But the process of making that, I've enjoyed.
14 views, 14,000 views, it's still the same thing to you.
Yeah,
But there's also a safety net in that content, because you can rehash, edit until you're happy. Whereas
yeah,
this kind of thing does require a bigger degree of vulnerability, because you have no idea what I might ask you.
100%. And it's very stripped back, and you can't edit, you can't cut.
Well, I can, but that's only to
Yeah,
make me sound
yeah,
better, Dan, not you.
yeah.
When did you start to become aware that there is an audience out there for what you're producing?
It was through run through. So I started doing, during the campaign, the 5K every day for a year. I had a lot of traction and things, but there were people that were getting in, like speaking to me, that I thought, you're an actual runner, like you're an athlete, or you run at this pace. And like, part of me, I only ever thought of me running 36-minute 5Ks, because that's what I started off doing, 36, 40-minute, 35. And it ended up sort of, coming down a little bit. But when people that were, active runners in the community were taking interest, I was thinking, what's going on? Like, and it just made me think, it is a community for that reason. Other people take inspiration from different parts of things. There was run through the UK biggest running events company in the UK.
Yeah.
They got in touch quite early on in the campaign, and they was like, look, we're going to support you. At that point, I was like, look, this is crazy. So when running events started to sort of kick off again, I was able to go to these events. The sense of community around them events, and I was meeting people through through my account.
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on? That point, I was like, this is it. I'm making stuff that's not only benefiting myself, but I'm able to actually speak with people. And
Yeah.
again, like, how good it is going from you're in work and you're speaking about running, and no one cares, or you're
No.
speaking to your
In your
family.
house, and they're like,
Yeah,
what? Who
yeah,
cares?
yeah.
When will you be back? But also, there's people who are going to these things at that point, not just that you happen to be meeting, they are going to meet you because of the connection, because of what you're doing for them. How do you start getting your head around that when you start to realise there's actually people turning out here to meet me and to run with me?
It is humbling. It's almost taking a step back, isn't it? Again, it's the persona, your Instagram persona. Whereas when you're in person, someone's coming up to you and you're like, I recognize you. Or can we go for a run? And you are breaking down that barrier a little bit.
What's the voice in your head telling you when that's happening?
I'm always self-doubting,
Yeah.
but it is just weird. Like, for somebody that never used to run, to be at a stage now where I am active in a running community, and I'm able to if inspire one, two, 10 people. It is weird, isn't it?
Are you
And
getting better at it? Are you getting better at it in your head?
I think so. I think the thing is that I always worry about is I used to in my first year, I never ran with anybody. People would ask me during COVID, should we go for a run? And I'd say, oh, I've got something on, just make some wild excuse up.
COVID made it easy to just stay under the
Yeah,
header.
just avoid it. And then when everything opened up a bit, I couldn't avoid it anymore. I always had that thing in my mind of, they're going to run faster than me. I'm going to hold them back, or what do I talk about? I don't know this person, or am I,
Yeah.
am I worthy of going for a run with this person? And it is that self-doubt that holds you back. But I think for every time I have done something that I've been uncomfortable with, again, what you said before, I felt better afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's not natural, it doesn't feel natural to me. Everybody, again, they think that I am very extroverted, and I've had comments going, "Oh my God, this guy, he goes to events with cameras, and
Yeah.
that is not me." That doesn't come natural to me. It's just built up over time. So it has got easier. It has, I think.
And through experience, the worst thing that ever happens on those occasions where you connect with people, even in the very worst case scenario, is never like a tenth of as bad as you imagine it could go.
No.
Like
No.
the head is the devil in that sense. And actually usually it's beyond anything you could hope for positive. But that's twice now in your answers to me that you have referenced runners by pace, almost like you couldn't believe active runners would want to reach out. Yet at that point, you're running 5K a day every day, and you're not considering yourself an active runner because you're obviously defining it by comparison, by speed, by. Are you by that bit in your head yet? That's something we are huge advocates of on here. Of sort of all running is running. Pace is the least interesting thing about you. If it floats your boat like it does for me, crack on, but nobody else cares.
No, I am 100% on that now. And that
Good.
I run now more than ever with no speed in mind. I'll be running now with, I'll go for an hour run, or I'll go for a 45-minute run. Or if I set myself a goal of running a certain time and I do it, brilliant. But that is not about, I'm never going to be an athlete. I don't want to be an athlete. I want to showcase, the opposite side of, the everyday person side of running. Yeah. And we all have working lives. We all do things in our spare time, but it's filling that spare time with stuff that's meaningful and that you can grow. And that's what I'm an advocate of. The speed isn't everything. It's amazing to have that. It's a personal goal, but it's personal for a reason. And
that's a good point. That's been a learning curve for me very probably recently as well. I've tried to change my approach to not what drives me, because that's this exact same. I'm driven by times, but it's a personal thing. But I've taken the times off my Insta profile, for example. You were defining people by their pace as active runners, real athletes. It's a big barrier to people enjoying running when they do that.
Yeah, it is. And I remember not being able to wear like a long sleeve. Like I'd go out running in a jumper for the first couple, and I was scared to wear a t-shirt because I was bigger than I am now, and I had I was in a bad place at that time. But I remember seeing runners going past my house, and they were running along, not a care in the world. There was a moment where I was driving people running. I was thinking how fast they go, and I didn't know. And I was just thinking, but if that was me, I'd be thinking, oh my God, everybody's going to be looking at me thinking I'm so slow. Nobody cares. Nobody cares how fast you're going. Like, they're in
especially the guy going to work in the car. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, can't believe he's so slow.
Yeah. It's like races, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how fast you're going. Like, you're there, and you're able to show up for one. That is a massive thing. You're there to do something for yourself. Doesn't matter how fast you are. And I am a runner. Like, I'm maybe not like a Mo Farah or whoever, but
no, but you know him.
It's a nice little segue there.
We'll come to that. We will come to that. People should check your Insta out for that reference. But everybody's selfish in a race. Everybody only cares about their time. We are selfish about your time in a race. Does not matter to me unless you've achieved what you were looking to achieve, and I can support you through it. But I'm never going to go, oh my God, that was terrible from you to do. Ever, for anybody. And most people wouldn't.
Like anything, you always see self-narrative in your head. It's you're always painting a picture of the worst case scenario, and you can become a prisoner to your own thoughts, really. And
Yeah.
I'm an advocate of just getting out there and doing it, just be at one with your own progress and be at one with your own journey,
Yeah.
because we're all different. We all have our own why, and we all have our reasons to do it.
Yeah.
These podcasts, for instance, I always think, why do people want to listen to me talk? And you've just got to break it down. The experiences that you've gone through, make you who you are, and that for somebody else is interesting.
There are millions of people at home, in their home right now, in their head, feeling the way you have felt in the past, at a similar point of their journey, or that will be able to see something of themselves in you. You might not. Why do I want to speak? I don't speak to elite athletes every day. Other podcasts do that. I enjoy listening to them in their process to a point, but I can't see myself in that person. I can't listen to Mo Farah talking about his training and recognise anything of my own running in that story.
No.
I can recognise his achievement. I can recognise his resilience, his skill, his dedication, all of those things. But in no way are we participating in the same sport to the same level, the same degree. That's why people want to hear your story, because I like to hear people where I think that's the way I think. I could be like that. I was like that. And opportunities and the good things just don't come as readily when you don't feel like you deserve them. If you truly don't feel like you deserve them, it can be hard for those opportunities to either manifest or for you to recognise them when they're there. Because you won't spot it as an opportunity at that time, you spot it as a potential threat. Can you tell me a wee bit about celebrating the wins here in terms of the charity and the fundraising? What's been the result of those efforts over your running journey?
Most of all, the charities that I were raising money for back then, I was always trying to put back into the community. So rather than tackling the big boys of charity, I'd be going to the community initiatives and putting money into that. So overall at the moment we're looking at raise over about £7,000 for charities now. Early on, I was very adamant of being able to see where that money's going, so that in the 5k every day for a year, I raised £5.5 grand, and I was able to see that money go to good use. I was able to go to meet the charity directors, and it'd be like, hand over the check, and they would tell me where that money's going. It's really, I'm really passionate about giving back in any capacity. If I can bring anything to the table, if you've got a platform, use it to a good ability, you can use it wisely. So far, I've been able to reach out to charities and do things with charity initiatives that have been what I want to do. So at the moment, I'm raising for Action for ME. So it is a charity based in the UK. My partner had ME. She missed about a year out of school because of it. And they're the only UK charity that supports people with ME and the families. It is a cause that strikes with me, but it's also, that they're actively seeking people to just help them, £1, £2, whatever, just sharing their story.
There's a link in Dan's bio on Insta if you want to support him on that, and I'll link to that in the episode description as well if anybody has a couple of quid to chuck in, and we'll make our contribution. You just spoke there about coming back from injury, so tell me again just what happened for the injury. How did that come about?
So again, much like my everything I ever do, I signed up for an ultra marathon, and I was thinking, how hard could an ultra marathon be? So I signed up for Race to the Stones in Wiltshire, in the middle of England. It's in the middle of the countryside.
My friend did the second day. It was split in. She did the second day.
It was an experience, to say the least. I signed up for the 100k over 2 days. It was an experience. I try and think of what happened, and all I can think about is just the pride and the support that was on the route. But it was 50k the first day. I got to 35k, and I started getting a niggle in my foot, and I was thinking, what is this feeling? So I saw the medic, and they said to me, it looks like your laces are tied a bit too tight. And in my head I was thinking, yeah, good, because I can control that. I'll just untighten them and I'll be fine.
That's doable.
Yeah. So I ignored the pain, and I carried on. I got to about 45k, and I was in agony. I was in absolute agony, and I thought, oh, what have I done? I ended 50k, day one, and I saw a medic again, and they said you could have a potential stress fracture, or it could be soft tissue damage. We don't know. And I said, can I run tomorrow? And it was like, well, we're not going to say no. And I was like, right, brilliant. Took some paracetamol. I rested, and Day two, I woke up, I had to put my trainer on again. At this point, my foot was ballooned, and I don't know why I did it. Like looking back now, I'm thinking this is crazy. But I knew on day two, I had to, I wasn't able to run it. I had to walk. So I knew if I had to finish this, I had to walk 50k, and that's what I did. I knew it was going to take a long time. I knew that it was going to be hard. It was going to be harder than day one, but I just wanted to finish. It was another opportunity to prove to myself, what I'm capable of.
Regrets? Do you have a
Yeah.
few?
I felt, yeah. I mean, no, absolutely, no. I don't regret it. I probably would have. No, I'm not. I'm not even going to go there.
I can actually see the devil and the angel on each shoulder having a fight here.
Yeah.
I mean, what it's cost you moving forward is obviously then time out, which is never a good thing.
100%.
So I can see. Well, absolutely, you shouldn't. You shouldn't run through that second day with that injury. You shouldn't. Just being sensible. I can also absolutely understand why you did anyway.
You're not going to gain anything from that
No.
other than you boosting your ego a little bit, thinking, "Oh my God, I've done 100k." But looking back, I am happy that I've done that, and I've had to take a few weeks out now. Luckily, I've had the go ahead. So I had some fluid on my tendon.
Is that what the injury was?
Yeah, so I didn't break a bone, thankfully. But I've been on crutches for the past 4 weeks and a boot. So yeah, short term loss.
Crutches. 4 weeks out, still can't bring himself to say he regrets it. Right, there you go. No. That's the runner in you.
I wonder if anybody else can relate.
100%. That's just a refusal to face up to reality. I mean, there will always be more 100k races. There will always be more events, but it has to live in your head, so you make the decisions that will work for you. That was recent, so I'm going to take you back. Two things I really want to touch on here is a couple of unbelievable opportunities that you've had from looking at your profile, and then what's coming up. You have met and had a discussion about running with Sir Mo Farah, and you have been mentored for the Great North Run, I believe, by one of our own in Scotland, Ailish McColgan.
Yeah, that's right. That is right.
Right, talk me through, is this all the same event? Can you talk me through how, why, where, when, what you got from it?
Back in February, the Great Run got in contact with me. They were celebrating the 20th year of the Great Manchester Run. Now, my first race that I spoke about, that was the Great Manchester Run back in 2017. Since then, obviously I've grown my running and everything. So that they got in touch with me and it was like, look, we've got an opportunity. We're looking for a couple of people to put a team together to be mentored by an athlete. And I was like, wow. I was like, this is wild. I was like, yes. I didn't even think of it. I was like, yeah, I'm in. And it was like, right, we'll let you know the details a little bit further on. So a week passed and we got an email through saying, look, it's been announced, Ailish McColgan will be your mentor for the Great Manchester Run. You're going to get nutrition tips. You're going to be able to meet her. You're going to be one-to-one sort of basis. And it's just wild. Thinking back how things have progressed, it is just wild. But the opportunity came and I thought, this is it. I'm just going to throw myself in. So you
just can't say no, can you, to something like that?
100%. And, that opportunity again, I never wanted to be an athlete, but it's these conversations, that's similar to what me and you are having now. We were able to chat and we were able to talk about normal things. Most of them mentoring sessions weren't about running. They were about like how she feels and how we can relate to that when we're on that start line or when we're going round. What do we think about? What music do you listen to? And then it's having that human contact, and that's how we can relate with them higher ups. Really, they're in a different league, but having that opportunity was insane, and being able to sort of represent Manchester, a place, my hometown, it was unreal to be there and be there on that day. Ailish, she's probably one of the best in the world, right? She is really, really big idol of mine and somebody that I would look up to, but more so as a role model for girls in the running community. And she's an advocate of the grassroots sort of running and that I can relate to. So, having conversations to her about where she wants to folk put all her efforts in over the next 10 years, that the biggest things were putting back into the community.
What a cool experience to just get the chance to chat running with somebody at that level and find any common ground must have been that's a complete one-off. And So how does the Mo Farah bit come into it?
It was during the same campaign. So we went to Manchester for the race day. We were told that Mo Farah is going to be running his last race in Manchester, the Great Manchester Run. So we turned up like on the Friday it was, and we went to the event, the pre-race event, and we all gathered together and was like, look, we've got a special guest here today. I was like, oh gosh, are they going to pull out somebody from like Coronation Street or something? But they were there, by the way. But Mo Farah comes up the lift and he's getting interviewed and things, and then they were like, look, we're going to get you over to get a photograph and have a chat. And at that point, it's just wild. I remember just thinking, what is going on? Like throughout the whole thing, like what is happening? Why am I here?
Yeah.
Again, he is such. We can't relate to the athletic side of things, but he turned around to me and speaking with him, and he was like, "Look, I never ran because I wanted to be an athlete." He was like, the first time I ran, he put on a pair of Air Maxes and ran down the street, and that like it's them things that you think that they're not too far removed from what we are.
First steps in this sport are the same for everybody. Uncomfortable, probably in the wrong footwear, don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And nowhere near as good at it as you will become. Genetics and training and all that stuff sits between what you do and what he does. But there he came out in an elevator looking for a photograph with you, so he must have heard about you. Big fan of the blog, Dan.
Well, it may have been me pushing for that one a little bit.
Not by the time. By 5 years' time, you'll be telling that story and saying he came out, called me by my first name, told me he's been a follower.
Yeah. These opportunities, I do just say yes to everything. My girlfriend laughs at me. She's like, "You just do everything." And I was like, "Yeah," because there was one point where I wouldn't do anything, and these opportunities, there's no monetary value attached to it. It's because you just love in doing that.
I respect you for doing that and being open enough to say that, because I turned down an opportunity the other day, and it's past that point's past now and I wish I hadn't, and I did it because I got in my own head about, oh my goodness, people are going to think I'm just saying yes to everything, or I'm everywhere, because the growth has been quite exponential quite quickly this year. And I've just let an opportunity pass that I should have said yes to, that would have been a benefit to me. I would have been a benefit to them, and I let myself talk myself out of it. So I respect you for doing that. If you can hang on to that, it's a positive thing. The opportunities won't be there forever.
No. And I understand that. I am very much, I live right now. I've since started my running journey, I've moved, so I live in South Wales now rather than Manchester. Now, the premise behind that is very selfish. It is for selfish reasons, again, for my mental health, for my love of the outdoors, for everything other than looking at myself and thinking, what do I need in my life? I know opportunities, when they come, I have pretty much now just been an advocate of, if I, in that moment, it can either be a wrong decision or a right decision. There's no right or wrong right there. You only know about
you won't know until you've done it. Yeah, absolutely.
But just do it. Like if it aligns with you, I will do something if it aligns with what I believe in. I won't be promoting products that I don't believe in. I won't be, things that get sent, or it's people that ask, "Oh, can I send you some collagen?" I'm like, "Well, no, because I'm vegan. I'm vegan."
It's like promoting a brand you would never ever wear. Like, oh, look at these running shoes, and you think you would never run a mile in those shoes.
100%.
Don't do it.
That's the change I've sort of done. Like, you've got to be transparent in social media, because otherwise it will catch up with you. And I believe now, I won't say yes to products or things that I've not used previously, and I won't say yes to opportunities that I don't want to do or align with. But
couldn't agree more, and that's why I've always worn a Rolex going to drive that Ferrari. So if they're listening, couldn't agree more. If it doesn't align with who you are, the values, if you wouldn't use it, you don't use it, don't promote it. It's as simple as that. But if you do, don't be shy about partnering with that organisation, because if you don't, somebody else will. You're coming through your injury, you're back on your feet, you're off the crutches, and now you're just easing yourself back in with, and I list them: the Oxford Half Marathon, the Great North Run, the London Marathon, and there was another one. There was 4 things, wasn't there?
Gran Canaria Marathon.
My Gran Canaria Marathon, just a small matter of an abroad marathon. Talk me through the thought process, because they're saying yes to everything, then there's insanity.
Again, the Great North Run, I've since, been able to partner with them. So being able to have this opportunity to run the Great North has been on one of my bucket list races for a while now. So the opportunity did come where there was like, do you want to come up and run and, create a bit of content, post a bit of, social media, but more so, it's just the journey to that point. Yeah, so the Great North, and then Oxford Half, I'm running again, a place where I've wanted to run for a while. I had all these events in place before I wanted to raise money. So
yeah,
but like the Great North Run, for instance, if they're gonna give me a place, I was like, I want to give back. So Great North, Oxford Half, they were sort of like press places as well.
opportunities that came your way through what you do.
So I just wanted to use them to be able to fundraise. I want to be able to give back to something through that opportunity, because otherwise I'm just turning up and just running and not doing it for a reason. Now I'm really conscious as well, like about fundraising through running, because I'm thinking people know that I run, so it's not like they think I'm going to be pushing myself. So I'm always thinking, do I have to do more? Do I have to?
I'm there right now, Dan, because I'm doing the London Marathon. I'm like, people know I've done a marathon already.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get out my own way with that. Actually, as we speak right now, to say, share the bloody link, do it, just get it out there, because nobody's. I would say, I know what I would say to you. Nobody's obliged to donate. You're not forcing people to donate. Yeah, I'm not telling myself the same story.
And that's it. Like, so yeah, I've got that one. We went to the London Marathon this year. My girlfriend ran it for Action for Me again. We signed up to we went to the expo and we signed up to the competitions and stuff, and like did on every QR code, sign up to Cape Town, sign up to blah blah blah, and we did Gran Canaria. And a few months later, we both got an email saying you won a place on the Gran Canaria Marathon. I was like, we're going to Gran Canaria.
You're like, oh shit.
Yeah. But we're using that again, we're using it for a nice getaway. We're going away a couple of days before it, the marathon, and then we're staying a week after. So we're having a little bit of a holiday out of it. But my first overseas event, and again, the marathon, I'm pretty much after this injury starting like couch to 5K again. So I will be pushing myself.
No, you're not. You think you are. No, you're not. Your base will still be hanging about in there.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, well.
But yeah, so then I've got London Marathon, one of my dream races. I used to watch it as a kid with my grandma and my mum. I remember watching everybody come together, and there was a lovely video I saw on YouTube a few weeks ago. It got shared by the London Marathon, and it was just a fella saying, this is why it's the best in the world, like because it brings. There's no other marathon in the world that has the community aspect of it, and everybody's fundraising. They're all doing it for their own reason, and there's no entry levels to going into the London Marathon. It's not like Boston, where you have to. There's
not an equivalent race in relation to just that ethos. I think you're right. Even though there's more majors, it stands alone. It does stand alone. I think it's the one everybody thinks stands alone.
Yeah. So that was when the opportunity came. To fundraise for Action for Me and get into the London Marathon, I was like, look, I'm going to do it. I've tried the ballot 5 years in a row, nothing. And if I got on, I would have been fundraising for them anyway. So I was like, look, I'm just going to go direct through the charity. And they were very kind enough to offer me a place. So I'm in for them.
Are we seeing you on the start line?
Yeah, man. Oh, we'll have to meet up.
It's exact same scenario as you, through the ballot so many times, and I've always shirked at raising the money just for the reasons we've spoken about. And then eventually I'm like, this is going to be the way I get to do this, because the ballot's getting harder every year, statistically less likely every year. Good for Age is still just a bit out of sight for London for me. I would probably need to wait to hit the next age category and hope I've retained this pace. So this was the way to do it, but I'm getting out my way. I'm organising events for the fundraising right now, but I am absolutely buzzing at the thought of getting down there and running that race, I must say.
It is a bucket list, isn't it? Like it's one of them where you're just thinking, wow, like I am next year I'm going to be on that start line.
I'm going to be there. I'm going to be going across that bridge, and I'm going to be at mile 21, and I'm going to I'm buzzing for it. We'll definitely need to meet up and see if we
Yeah.
can either get the park run maybe in the Saturday or the shakeout
Oh
run, and
man, yeah,
we'll
that'd be
we'll,
really good.
we'll tie in and we'll organise it. I'll be down there the week before. My sister lives down in Surrey, so
Nice.
I'll be staying down there. Um, that's the Gran Canaria bit sounds amazing as well, except the marathon. That bit sounds like it's getting in the way of a right good holiday. What's the longer term plan for you before we head into sort of quick fire round? This schedule that you have is going to take care of the next 6 months.
Yeah.
What do you want from all of this moving forward? Where would you like to be if we to speak next year?
I want to, I want to push it a little bit more in terms of, inspiring the younger generation. I I didn't do any sports as a child through the fact of, I was a little bit bigger, but more so, economic side of things. All these sports clubs and everything, it cost money, and
Yeah,
we just couldn't afford it. My mum and dad couldn't afford to send me to all these
yeah.
clubs and become as athletic as I could have been. I'm going into colleges where I live at the moment, and I'm going in, and there's a thing what I'm doing. It's called like Why We Move. So it's introducing this term, movement rather
Yeah.
than sport.
Movement removes any stigma of
Yeah,
pace or competitive or reasons you can't. Movement is getting your bum out the door and
yeah,
doing something.
yeah, it is, and so yeah, I really want to just be able to use the platform that I have to sort of do that a little bit more, and have opportunities where I can speak openly about my experience of getting into sport, but also how I felt when I wasn't doing anything.
I'm looking forward to seeing where your journey goes. It's been a pleasure to hear about your journey and the whys, and probably a good lesson again to me not to judge before you speak, because I thought this would be different. I thought I would be getting somebody uber confident because you only see what the face of Instagram showed you. So it's really nice to dig down into that and get that connection between, and you think like I think. We all have those multifaceted sides. So thank you so much, Dan, for the time that you've given up. I know people will respond to this and react to it and get a lot from it.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure, and if anyone can take anything from it, is just see beneath somebody's surface. We've all got our reasons to do something. Just focus on yourself, and anything is possible. Just
Yeah.
just write your own narrative, and the rest will follow. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Oh well, you're not off the hook yet. You need to do my
Oh,
quick fire questions first. So
I was dipping out.
if you were ready to dip out there, I would have been phoning you back. South Wales is not far enough to escape the quick fire questions. So you've heard a couple of the shows. So quick fire questions are off the top of your head, not too much thought going into them. Don't need big reasons behind them. Just give me them as they come, and then we'll get your playlist track.
On your marks, get set, go!
Favorite running shoe of all time?
The Adios Pro 3s. I love them because they're sleek. I'm not going to go into too much info, but they're lovely.
I just got a pair. Favorite training route?
Along the coastal path in Swansea Bay.
Proudest running moment?
Crossing the finish line of my first marathon at Manchester Marathon.
Favorite podcast, running or non-running?
I like Off Menu podcasts with James A. Caster.
Worst race or running experience? I think I might know what's coming here.
I had to. It's a grim one. Oh my gosh! I had to go up into a bush on a training run once because I needed to do something. So yeah, that wasn't very nice. But
rite of passage. Anybody that's running enough distance for enough time can sympathise. It's a badge of honour. Go to pre-long run meal. What you feeling with before a big race or a big distance?
Porridge with blueberries, little bit of sugar, brown sugar on the top. Yeah.
If you could run alongside yourself as a beginner runner, what advice would you give yourself?
Just keep going. You look fine. Don't judge yourself, and don't be too hard on yourself. Just keep going.
Love that. Absolutely love that. You look fine. So many posts are about people, how they perceive how they look. That's a brilliant one. One inspirational Insta profile you never skip by?
I love Stephen Bartlett. I love Diary of a CEO, and he's come from a similar background. I can relate to him, even though he is far removed.
Yeah, I'll link to his profile because he badly needs the followers.
Yeah.
Run with or without music?
Used to be with. I never ran without. Now I never run with.
Favorite park run?
I only did my first one about 4 months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Swansea Bay.
I saw the picture of that one actually
Yeah.
on. I thought you were a parkrun goer because I saw that picture.
No, it's amazing. I had the best time. I didn't realise it was a race. I thought,
Oh, don't ever say that next to the race director.
no.
It's a run, not a race.
Yeah.
Sorry, run director, not race director. There's me doing it as well. Yeah, no, it's not. It's not a race apparently.
Oh well,
Until
yeah,
you see the guys batter in 16 minutes
at
and
the
15
front.
minutes. Yeah,
Well, I went in with, I was jogging, and then someone's been like, I'm being pulled. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
geez, better crack on then.
I know it's your own run. That one, it's whatever you want it to be. I often use it as a speed session. Sometimes I'll jog it, just depends. But usually I get caught up in the not a race.
Yeah.
Finish this sentence for me. I press play and run because
It makes me feel alive. It makes me feel alive, and it makes me feel me.
I like it. Everybody reaches for something really profound there and thinks, what am I going to say?
I know.
Don't worry, I'll chop the silence and it'll sound like that just came right off the top of your head. Final order of business, Dan. We have a press, play and run playlist on Spotify, and each week our guest adds the running track of choice that would rarely slip out of their gym running rotation. So what's it going to be?
I'm going to go with Supersonic by Oasis. It's one of my all-time favourites, and every time it comes on, I just put a little bit more effort in.
We can't get a mank on here and not end up with a bit of Oasis on there. You're probably lending credibility to a playlist that badly needs it.
I was going to say Come On Eileen, because I remember running to Come On Eileen during the 5K everyday thing, and it's one of them songs where it's like, it's so cheesy, it's good.
Dan, see if you would have said that, I honestly might have kiboshed this playlist. I might have just deleted it off Spotify. Johnny Davis picked SOS by ABBA, and honestly, I almost fell off my chair. I can't take any more cheese. We need credibility, so we're sticking with your first answer.
That was a banger though, isn't it?
Oh, well, according to Johnny, it is. I'm not sure I'd be running to it. I'm not sure it's that level of a banger. But well, final thing, Dan, just again, thank you so much. Your time is precious. Everybody's time is precious, but I really appreciate it. I've loved the chance to connect with you. I look forward to staying in touch, and hopefully we get that running together at some point.
Of course, man. No, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much. Hopefully see you soon.
Top man. Thanks a million. Thank you to you, the listeners, for joining us for another episode of the Press Play and Run podcast. You can really help to support the podcast by subscribing or following on your podcast platform of choice and by leaving a review. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Press Play and Run Podcast, and to add the Press Play and Run playlist on Spotify. We'll be back every 2 weeks with new episodes, and please be sure to keep an eye on our Instagram page to find out which guests will be joining us. Until then, keep getting the trainers on, press play and run.